The blizzard had come without mercy, the kind of storm the mountains used to remind men how small they truly were. Snow fell in thick, violent sheets, swallowing sound, swallowing direction, swallowing hope. Daniel Cole had lived near these ranges for most of his life, worked as a wildlife tracker and winter rescue volunteer, and still that night even he felt fear crawl into his bones. The wind screamed like something alive, cutting across the frozen forest, bending the tall pines until they groaned under its rage. Daniel tightened the collar of his shearling-lined coat and pushed forward, boots sinking deep into snow that reached nearly to his knees. He wasn't supposed to be out this late. The radio warnings had been clear: no visibility, record low temperatures, death for anyone caught unprepared. But something had pulled him back onto the trail. A gut feeling, a sense that the storm wasn't the most dangerous thing wandering these woods tonight. He had almost turned back twice when he saw it. A dark shape against the white, unnatural and still. As he approached, his breath caught. Two women sat pressed against a massive stone boulder, wrapped in thin blankets already stiff with ice. Their faces were pale, lips blue, eyes glassy with exhaustion and fear. One of them looked up at him, and in that moment, Daniel knew if he had arrived even 10 minutes later, he would have been kneeling beside bodies instead of survivors. He dropped to one knee, ignoring the snow soaking through his pants, and spoke gently, his voice nearly stolen by the wind. They didn't answer at first. They just stared, as if unsure whether he was real or another cruel illusion of the storm. He shrugged off his pack, pulled out thermal wraps, and began working fast, hands trained by years of rescue. The women were young, maybe in their early 20s. Dark hair tangled with snow, features sharp and striking even under frostbite's threat. One clutched the other's arm as if letting go would mean disappearing. When Daniel asked their names, the woman on the left whispered something in a language he didn't recognize. Not English, not Spanish. Something older. Something that sent an unexpected chill down his spine. Apache, he'd heard it before from elders who still lived farther south. Stories of people who once roamed freely through these lands long before roads, radios, and rescue teams. "You're safe now," he said, though he wasn't entirely sure it was true. The storm was intensifying, and his cabin was still over a mile away, normally manageable, but tonight every step could be fatal. He helped them to their feet, supporting their weight as they stumbled. One of them winced in pain, her ankle clearly injured, swollen and purple beneath the blanket. Daniel adjusted, letting her lean against him fully, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. As they moved, the woman who had spoken earlier glanced back at the boulder, her eyes filled not with relief but regret, almost guilt. "We were not supposed to survive," she murmured in broken English. Daniel frowned, but the wind stole any chance of a reply. The journey back felt endless. Snow erased his tracks almost as soon as he made them. More than once he had to stop, close his eyes, and rely on instinct alone. When the lights of his cabin finally appeared through the white haze, relief hit him so hard his legs nearly gave out. Inside, warmth slowly returned to the frozen space as he lit the stove and wrapped the women in dry blankets. He made hot broth, fed them carefully, watched color return to their cheeks inch by inch. Only then did he truly look at them. Their clothing beneath the blankets was not modern hiking gear. It was simple, handmade, worn thin by time. Around one woman's neck hung a small carved symbol, an Apache medicine sign, something Daniel had only ever seen in books. "My name is Naylan," the injured woman said quietly. "This is Ayana." Her voice was steady now, but her eyes held something heavy, ancient. Daniel nodded, offering his own name, though suddenly it felt insignificant. The storm raged outside, battering the walls, trapping them together in a pocket of fragile safety. Hours passed. The fire crackled. Silence stretched, broken only by the wind and the occasional creak of old wood. Then Ayana spoke. "You should not have come," she said. "This storm was meant to erase us." Daniel studied her face, unsure whether exhaustion had driven her into delirium. "Storms don't choose," he replied gently. "They just are." She shook her head slowly. "Not this one." She explained that they had been running not from the weather, but toward something they believed would end their suffering. Their people had guarded a truth for generations, she said, a truth tied to these mountains, buried during a time of betrayal and bloodshed. Outsiders had come long ago, promising peace then stealing land, breaking sacred agreements and hunting those who resisted. The women were the last of a specific bloodline, chosen not by power but by memory. They carried knowledge that could expose what had been hidden. Records, locations, names that powerful interests wanted erased. When Daniel asked why they were here now, Ayana's gaze locked onto his. "Because the storm was sent to silence us," she said. He wanted to laugh it off, to blame fear and trauma. But something in her voice stopped him. It wasn't hysteria. It was certainty. She told him how the blizzard had formed unnaturally fast, how the winds shifted against nature, how the forest itself seemed to turn on them. Apache elders believe the land remembers injustice, she said, and sometimes when stirred it responds. Daniel felt his rational mind pushing back. But another part of him, older, quieter, listened. As the night deepened, Nolan removed the symbol from her neck and placed it on the table between them. "If anything happens to us," she said, "you must take this south, to the Red Mesa. Give it to the elders, promise." Daniel hesitated. He hadn't asked for any of this. He was a rescuer, not a messenger of forgotten wars. But when he met their eyes, saw the weight they carried, he nodded. Outside, the storm reached a terrifying crescendo, shaking the cabin as if testing its resolve. Daniel realized then that rescuing them from the blizzard was only the beginning. Whatever they had survived for, whatever they were carrying, had chosen him now too. And if this story has pulled you in, if you feel the tension of that night and the mystery unfolding, remember, stories like this continue because of you. Subscribe to the channel, stay with us, because what these women reveal next will change everything. Daniel thought he knew about the land, the past, and his own place in it. End of Chapter 2. Morning arrived without sunlight. The storm had not weakened. It had only changed its voice. Instead of screaming winds, the blizzard now pressed down with a suffocating silence, snow falling straight and heavy, as if the sky itself were lowering. Daniel woke before the women, the cabin dimly lit by dying embers in the stove. His body ached, but his mind was restless. What Ayana and Nolan had told him the night before refused to settle into the neat categories he relied on, truth or fear, history or imagination. He moved quietly, adding wood to the fire, watching flames lick back to life. When he turned, he found Ayana awake, sitting upright despite her exhaustion, eyes fixed on him as if she had been awake the entire night. "The land is listening," she said softly. Daniel paused. "To what?" She looked toward the walls, toward the storm beyond them. "To what we do next?" Nolan stirred then, her injury worse than Daniel liked. The swelling hadn't gone down, and he knew they couldn't travel far yet. He told them the roads would be buried anyway. Rescue services grounded until the storm passed. Ayana nodded, unsurprised. "It will not pass until it decides," she replied. They ate in silence. When Daniel finally asked them to explain everything from the beginning, they exchanged a look, heavy with generations of unspoken agreement. Nolan began. Long before borders and maps, their ancestors had protected something hidden within these mountains. Not gold, not weapons, but records, stone-carved histories, burial truths, proof of treaties broken and massacres erased. When the expansion came, soldiers and surveyors destroyed villages and burned evidence. But some elders foresaw it. They hid the truth where machines could not reach, binding its location to bloodlines and memory instead of paper. Over time, most of the guardians were hunted, silenced, or assimilated. Nolan and Ayana were among the last who had been taught everything. Recently, men had come, quiet men with money, technology, and no official names. They claimed to be researchers. They weren't. They knew the legends and wanted the truth destroyed forever. Because if it surfaced, it would shatter reputations, corporations, and even governments built on denial. The women had fled north, believing the storm would cover their trail. But the blizzard came too fast, too precise, driving them toward the stone boulder like prey into a trap. "They knew where we would be," Ayana said. Daniel felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He'd always believed danger was loud. Sirens, gunshots, visible threats. This was different. This was quiet erasure. As if on cue, a low mechanical hum cut through the storm. Daniel stiffened. "You hear that?" Ayana's eyes hardened. "They found us." A black shape emerged through the whiteout, stopping far too close to the cabin to be coincidence. Snowmobiles, 2 of them. Daniel's instincts kicked in, sharp and clear. He ushered the women toward the back room, killed the lights, and pulled his old hunting rifle from the wall, not to fight, but to buy time if needed. Footsteps crunched outside. A knock came, firm, controlled. Not panicked, not friendly. Search and rescue, a man's voice called. Daniel didn't move. He knew every rescue unit within 100 miles. This wasn't one of them. The knock came again, harder. We're tracking 2 missing women. Dangerous conditions. Open up. Nolan gripped Daniel's sleeve, whispering urgently, "If they take us, the truth dies." The door handle turned slightly, testing. Daniel made a decision that would split his life in 2. He stepped forward and spoke loudly. Cabins quarantined. Illness turned back. Silence followed. Then quiet laughter, muffled by the storm. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." A sharp crack echoed as the window shattered. Daniel reacted instantly, firing a warning shot into the snow outside. Chaos erupted. Shouts, movement, then retreat. The snowmobiles roared back to life and vanished into the storm, but Daniel knew they would return. With more men, better preparation. The women stared at him, shock and gratitude intertwined. "You chose," Ayana said. "Now the land will protect you or test you." They couldn't stay. Despite Nolan's injury, they packed essentials and prepared to leave through a hidden trail. Daniel knew. A path marked by trees bent unnaturally, avoided by hunters because compasses failed there. As they moved, the storm shifted again, winds changing direction as if clearing a corridor just for them. Hours passed in brutal silence until the forest opened into a narrow ravine. There, half buried in ice and time, stood stone markers carved with the same symbol Nolan had placed on Daniel's table. The truth site. As they approached, the storm finally broke. Sunlight pierced the clouds, striking the stones like fire. Ayana placed her hand against one marker and began to speak, not to Daniel, but to the land itself. The ground beneath them trembled, subtle but undeniable. Daniel watched as a hidden stone slab shifted, revealing carvings beneath, names, dates, testimonies etched deep, impossible to erase. This was it, proof, history breathing again. "You will carry this forward," Nolan said, her voice steady despite pain. "Not alone. But first you must survive what comes next." In the distance, engines echoed once more. Daniel looked at the women, then at the uncovered truth, and finally at the path ahead, knowing there was no turning back. He was no longer just a rescuer. He was a witness. And witnesses change the world if they're heard. If this chapter gripped you, if you felt the danger closing in and the weight of hidden history rising, don't step away now. Subscribe to the channel, stay part of this journey, because stories like this aren't just entertainment, they are reminders that truth survives through those brave enough to carry it forward. End of